Okay, in our previous step we had joined the lining and the fabric. Now one of the most important aspects is pressing. Whether you're pressing the pleats in or just pressing the lining, you want to make sure that each seam is pressed. So what you want to do is make sure your iron is warmed up, and you want to press each seam open. Got it on the wrong side. And each seam is going to get pressed open. The amount of steam sometimes is giving a little bit too much steam. You got to be careful with steam. You don't want to shrink anything. So the lining and the fabric both have to be pressed open. Doesn't hurt to hit the rest of the valance a little bit. It's okay to take your time, make sure you get it right. No rush here. It's about when that steam gets hot though. Check the other side. This is a good time to just kind of give it a light pressing. It's been through the sewing machine, so it does get a little wrinkly. Because the next step is we're going to pin this to the lining. So we just want to make sure it looks good before we do that. And sometimes, even with me, I get these little jogs. Don't worry about it. We can even it out afterwards. There's nothing here that we really can't straighten out after. Maybe if you find your bottom isn't just quite straight, don't worry about it. In the end, it'll be fine. Now I'm just going to lay that out. Keep it from getting wrinkled. Go ahead and do my lining. There's some incidences where you're going to want to press your seams to one side. But since our seams are hidden on this valance, it's fine to press them open. And the reason why I say that is because sometimes when you have a very wide seam like this, the sun can hit it and you see this big wide seam. And so on some applications it's better just to push it to one side. But on this particular valance, the flatter we can make the lining and since we're lining up the lining and the fabric seams together, we don't want it to get overly thick. And it's going to be hidden anyway behind the seams, behind the pleat. So it's a double whammy for us. We're going to be good. Finish hitting this. Flip it back over. Time. This is also the time while you're here to make sure that there's no threads caught in your lining that can be seen, because once you sew it in, that could be a problem. This is a dark fabric, but if you had a light fabric and you've got threads in here and it gets caught in your valance, like I said previously, that the sun, it's just like a x-ray machine, and nothing worse than having a thread caught and being able to see it when the sun hits it. Now we're ready. We're going to take our lining, spread it out. I'm going to bring it over so you can see it over here. I'm not too sure exactly. Then we're going to take our fabric and put it on top. Now remember, we overcut everything originally. We overcut the lining too, which is good because now we can trim our lining top and bottom . And we can line up everything. Right here we got the lining and the face fabric seams are lined up. They're lined up on both returns. And you can see over here we have the self fabric lining up with the return of the valance. And that way, as I previously showed you on this, when you're looking at it from the side view, which is the only view you're going to see, you can see you're going to be able to see the face fabric instead of white lining, and that just looks so much nicer. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to stick pins throughout, and as I stated before, I like to put my pins in vertically opposed to horizontally. That's just my preference, because I just feel like every time you stick in this one, you have 100 pins there, it'll kind of cause a little ripple. Also, just going to use a bent one. Also, the points of these will not hit your needle. So if you get them a little close, it's okay. You can leave them right in until afterwards, or you can remove them as you're doing it. It doesn't really matter. My point being is that your needle, if it does touch it, it'll just bounce off to one side. Either the needle will or the pin itself. So you don't have to be concerned about that. This is about as many pins as you're going to need to hold it in place. Over pinning it won't help you. And any threads that you find along the way, this type of fabric is definitely, the threads come off, but you want to remove them. And go ahead and pin the sides too, and pin the top so we have it all pinned in. Plenty of pins to hold it in, but not so many that it interferes. You don't need quite as many at the top. You're not sewing across the top. I want to make that clear so you understand that we're not sewing the top. We're only going to sew the bottom. We're going to trim off the excess lining off of the top. But that's as far as it goes. We're not actually. So we're just going to trim this off. Across the top. Now over here, I shouldn't do it, but I do for whatever reason. I have a little jut here. This comes not quite even. So all I'm just going to do is just come in and just trim that a little bit closer. And it won't show up. It won't do anything. You have a 1/2 inch on the top as an allowance. So I wouldn't be overly concerned if you have a little jut where the two seams don't quite line up perfectly. Now we're going to trim the bottom of it. So this is the right way to do it. You really don't want to pre-cut the lining. Because if anything happens and the lining and the scallops don't line up, you've got a problem. This way you know that your lining and your face fabric are going to line up perfectly together when you sew it. There you have it. All cut out. And we'll see you at the sewing machine.